For now, the WHO has delayed a decision on whether to name this a public health concern on an international scale. What steps is China taking?
Well, we've seen all the top-level officials come out and say that this needs to be resolutely curbed, that there needs to be transparency. As you heard from the executives earlier there, China has made a number of steps since the early 2000s, lessons they learned from SARS when China was criticized widely for trying to deny the scope of the problem, for being very slow to respond. Now, since then, China has spent some $12 billion yuan to upgrade its public health system in terms of disease prevention. You've seen them implement a number of transparency controls. So yesterday, during that public health briefing, we did learn that China is now implementing a nationwide screening. They're also going to be implementing nationwide checks and updates, as well as more regular updates with the World Health Organization, which is also going to be deploying authorities to China to help the local authorities on the ground. So you're seeing much more international communication and collaboration with international organizations. And China was largely praised for being very quick to share the genetic sequencing of this pathogen, which helped other countries to be able to more quickly identify this.
Selina, it's interesting. We've had conversations for the past 2 to 3 hours. It's of course, this is fundamentally, structurally a different world to 2002, to 2003 under SARS. In other words, the modes of transport and the speed of transport. Give me a sense of what business leaders are saying in regards to the situation.
I think it's absolutely right to highlight that it's a very different world. You mentioned some of the physical infrastructure part, but let's also not forget the fact that now you have social media, emergence of the internet, and information flows much faster. So the government also has to be held more accountable to have more transparency and to give these regular checks, given that weeks ago we had Chinese online netizens complaining that they weren't getting enough transparency and complaining about why it took so long for there to be reports that this could be spread through human-to-human transmission. Now, in terms of the transport links, now many more people in China own cars, even though Wuhan is essentially under lockdown in terms of outbound flights, outbound trains being blocked, and public transportation being blocked. That doesn't mean that people aren't able to go into their cars, albeit there's a lot of traffic to try and get out of the city. So this type of lockdown is very difficult to implement, but this is a pretty unprecedented step. This is, again, a city of 11 million. This is an important transport hub, an important center of high-speed rails. So to try to do something like this is extremely difficult.